we're going to see a bigger emphasis on urban living, but not the urban living of the past, sort of the urban living of the future with increased amenities, increased proximity to mass transit, and also an increased emphasis on quality. People are going to make more efficient use of their homes, and so they're not going to need quite as much space as they used to need. Some of that's going to involve things like an increased amount of single occupant households, and some of that's also going to involve the simple reality that we have so much less need for paper. If you're like me, a lot of my home is taken up by paper files from previous years of my life. I don't need as much space anymore to store that paper material in books because everything's digital now. With the increased tendency and movement towards sustainable urban living, people are going to have everything they need and then some in the housing of the future. They're going to have more access to a variety of transportation alternatives. They're going to have more access to amenities and shared community facilities. People are really getting tired of those kinds of more far out suburban neighborhoods where they feel more separated from their neighbors. I think it's natural to want to know your neighbors to some extent, and so I think that more community-oriented housing in the future will have more attractive, safe, and convenient spaces for residents to just naturally interact. I think we're going to see an increase in the sort of more low to mid-rise urban living. Mid-rise urban living in particular is something that's both attractive and human scale while still offering all of the amenities and convenience and affordability of urban living. I think what we're going to see for those communities that are more urban is just an increased number of options for how to get around. That could include presence of Zip cars or Flex cars, which are two companies that offer shared car services similar to a rental, but not exactly like a rental. Some communities even have shared bicycles. For those residents who own bicycles, I think it's going to be more and more important that they have a safe, convenient, and ideally also attractive location to store those bicycles so they're not dragging them up 3 flights of stairs to their dwelling unit. I think there's still a mindset out there that the best thing to do for affordable housing is to build it as inexpensively as possible, and I think that's just a general mindset shift that needs to take place. I do believe that the message of quality construction and that sustainable building really is quality building is one that's going to get heard louder and louder over time and really become part of the reason that it becomes almost required universally. There's some really basic things that every homeowner can do and every builder and developer. For example, select Energy Star, energy efficient and water efficient appliances for the home. Those save lots and lots of energy and water, and everybody uses them. I think one of the main things we're going to see in terms of improvements in quality of materials is that finished materials are not going to be the cheapest possible ones that the builder could have selected. They're going to be more durable materials in terms of flooring. Many people like wood flooring and seek out wood flooring, solid surface countertops, maybe instead of laminated countertops. But it's also going to impact things like the windows, the quality of windows so that they don't warp and that they don't leak over time, as well as exterior materials such as siding and roofing materials. The asphalt shingles that are common on so much of our housing stock in this country is not something, for example, that you would see in Europe. In fact, I don't believe it's actually allowed by local codes to use that type of material throughout Europe. I think an example of roofing material that would be longer lasting for homes in this country would be metal roofing, whether it would be shingles or what they call standing seam metal roofing. There may be some that are slightly more expensive, but I think the key is to look at the big picture of what is a home going to cost over time to live in and to operate, and I think that's where people are going to see many more energy savings that lead to cost savings, also water savings that lead to cost savings over time that really reduce the cost of living in their home. I think there's really good news in terms of what's going to make housing more affordable over time, because really the biggest costs people are going to see are the increased costs for their utilities. That includes electricity, that includes gas, sometimes oil, but also we're going to inevitably see increases in the cost of water. And a green home, a sustainable home, inherently saves all of those. It conserves energy costs and it also conserves water costs. And so those things are going to be lower bills that low income and moderate income families are going to have to worry about. You're going to see savings in energy and water bills that really more than make up for any additional first costs in quality materials and high performance systems and construction. I think one of the things we're going to see is a bit of a reversal of the trend over the last several decades for homes to just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And part of that has to do with the shift of focus of construction and new development from outer suburbs towards life in the city. And I think that's one of the main reasons why we're going to see some of the homes getting a little bit smaller, and just in general there being more options of home sizes that really address singles, that address empty nesters and people who really don't need and don't want to maintain a lot of space. One example of smaller housing that's pretty interesting that's starting to pop up here and there across the country is the concept of cottages and of pocket neighborhoods. And those really create small buildings that are suitable for just one or two people, but in an orientation that supports kind of a community feel. So they might be, a pocket neighborhood might have several homes that are smaller, that are oriented around a shared green space, for example. Another trend that I think we're going to see more and more of is this wonderful trend of adaptive reuse of older buildings, in many cases historic buildings that might combine even affordable housing tax credits with historic preservation tax credits. There are many wonderful industrial buildings with high ceilings that are perfectly suited to becoming loft spaces, which we're seeing more and more of in our older cities. And one of the reasons that urban living can be so much more sustainable is the tendency towards mixed-use developments where you can eat, live, and shop all within the same area, even work in the same neighborhood. There are several people in my company who actually walk to work, and they really enjoy the quality of life advantages of that. I think when you tie it all together, the picture that I have of housing in the future has kind of all of your quality of life needs met, or at least most of them, in a way that really uses less resources, so people can spend more time enjoying their lives, where their homes and their commutes and their transportation options don't get in the way of them enjoying their lives.